I think we're going live. Yeah, we're live. Hi, everyone. We are a good 25 minutes late. We had some technical issues. I think there's something in the air because it's been like that all day for me, for my partner, and for our guest today. So I want to start by saying Happy International Women's Day. It's very exciting to be celebrating today, and especially with our guest. And welcome also to the Inner Fire interview number 14. And this is very exciting for me. And before we dive in, I want to invite you to do something. I've just been taking in how much information is coming at us, which I'm sure you've thought about, felt, and had conversations about. But I just had this thought today to invite you to move while you listen. However and whatever that means to you, like get your big medicine ball out and roll around, jump on your bed, practice your cartwheels, I don't know, but find ways to just stay in motion so that you can allow the energy to keep flowing and the information that we are going to be the conversation we're going to have, the information that will be pertinent to you will stand out. So that's my invitation for today. Now, without further ado, I would love to introduce our guest who lights up the world. She is an old friend of mine who I met 8 years ago when I came back to Montreal. And well, first of all, Mary is a certified trauma-informed love and relationship coach. So she goes by Marie Magdalena Wolf, and she works with women, men, and couples internationally. And I met her before she was certified, and I remember her as being so vibrant and so curious about her femininity, her sexuality, and already on this journey of discovery. But she will tell us more about the moment, this pivotal moment in her life, which took her to become a certified trauma-informed sex, love, and relationship coach. And so, and she's also the creator of Holy Fuck Yes, which we'll dive into. So today we're going to talk about energetic orgasms, sexual trauma, love, relationships, porn, higher states of consciousness, and possibly about achieving our visions for our intimate life or sexual life. So I'd love to bring Mary to the screen.
Hello.
Hello, we made it. We made it without technical issues. Wow, welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
how are you feeling after all that?
I'm good. I'm glad we started. I'm glad I have time. I'm glad we figured out the sound, and I hope everybody can relax and make themselves a cup of tea and be with us as we dive in all of those exciting things.
Yes, yes. And please let us know, like viewers, if you have anything you want to share, or if there are technical issues that you would like to mention, we can see your comments. So I'll definitely check it once in a while to see if there's anything important, and also to know, for you to jump into the conversation with us.
Absolutely. Ask questions. We would love to hear from you for sure.
Yeah. I'm so excited about this. I have so many questions.
I am excited.
I'd love to first ask you about your journey, because there was a pivotal moment. There was this, I believe you said in 2017, you had an awakening or a transformational moment that brought you on this path. So would you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I'm going to share a little bit of what brought me from who you knew in Montreal when we met. And I was in movement and, teaching Pilates and gyrotonic and gyrokinesis to where I am right now. And so what happened is, as you remember, I left Canada to get married with a man I had been long distance with. And then we started a relationship that was not, fulfilling. And we ran into a lot of obstacles and, conflicts. And mainly I was not happy with my sexuality. And I was like, there must be a way. Like, I want us to have a peaceful relationship. There must be a way to make this better. And I had never done, I had never done therapy. I had never done counseling. So I tried to do that a little bit. And then doing this, I really realized that I had trauma that I had not addressed. Even more, I had been in denial for 19 years. And it came I think it came from me a little bit like a bomb. I was like, oh wow. And I began to understand that I had to address this. And then you know how life brings you the things you need when you're ready for them. Then, I found an online course to become a sexuality and relationship coach. And I had no desire to be a sex coach. I had never even thought of that. It never crossed my mind. But I knew I had to take this training. I was like, this is going to help me on my personal journey. And so that's how it started. And doing this journey of therapy ended, counseling didn't really help us. Just managing conflicts maybe, but it didn't bring me what I was looking for. And going on this journey of practical somatic exploration and trauma release practices and understanding my journey and my childhood really, really helped me awaken my sexual energy, awaken my vibrancy, feel that it was okay that I had those desires, and led me to love sharing that with others and start working and have, and see in others the healing that I had experienced.
So it was a somatic approach that, can you talk about that? Because it's something that I hear often, I healed my sexual trauma. And I always think to myself, how? What was the approach? What was the container in which you were able to do that?
So I think every person is different in their story, and how they relate to the trauma and the intensity of it is unique. But I can share with you what worked for me was first having a community in which I was, and I felt like I was not alone. I was not broken. There was nothing weird with me. And to really help me understand how my nervous system was acting out in order to protect me from the trauma that was not healed, if that makes sense. In order, the triggers that in my daily life or in my relationship were activating strong emotional reactions in me. So the first thing was understand that I'm okay and that all of that is normal. That really helped me feel, the anxiety, the panic attacks, all of that made sense now retrospectively. The second thing as far as somatic goes was breath work, which I use with clients a lot. Really, really helped me. And it doesn't have to be, super cathartic and powerful. It can be gentle. It can be implemented in a gentle way. So to release the trauma charge that was stuck in my body, as you're a movement, specialist and you're a dancer, and many of the women in the group are, I'm sure. So this idea of allowing the body to move and to shake and to cry and to scream in a way that is consciously held was really, really supportive for me. And the other part was, I felt like so there are two ways to heal and to thrive. One is the path of pleasure and one is the path of purification. And they kind of weave, into each other. I love this approach. So yes, you can do some trauma release and understanding your journey. So you have an understanding, an intellectual understanding of it, and you also have a somatic emotional liberation. So that's great. And also to cultivate pleasure at the same time, to start rewiring your body and your brain for, trauma was in the past. Now pleasure is safe. Now relationships can be safe. Now being myself is safe. And so weaving in purification, so to speak, and pleasure, so self-pleasure practices, which I talk about on my page recently, that was really helpful.
Oh, wow. I believe in everything I've experienced in my own way, but not so much not so specifically, let's say, in my sexual life, in my intimate life, but integrating through consciousness, through moving the energy, through welcoming what's really there. Like everything that you're saying, I identify, like I understand. What, like I'm looking at my own, like, because right now it's like like, okay, I think I'm ready to dive in. I've dealt with these other aspects of my being, and my sexual energy is really calling to be looked at and welcomed and have it flow through me. So I suppose I have to think about how to formulate my question. There's the number one is, how can we identify that there is a disharmony in our sexual energy field, or however you want to put it, like in our sexual life? How do we identify that?
Okay, so I have a very simple answer to that question is, if you're not satisfied, if you're frustrated, if you're unhappy, if you know there is more, even if you can't really put your finger on it, if you don't really know what that is, but you're like, I'm sure there is more to my sexuality, to my body, to my sensuality. Or if you heard other people, no matter the gender, if you heard other people share with you those ecstatic, amazing, or just connected possibilities that you're like, that's not what I experienced. And you're like, I want this. I think that's enough of an answer to be like, okay, how can I cultivate that or bring that into my life?
It's so, I love it. It is a simple answer, but what I find really fascinating for probably most women that I mean, I'll speak for myself. It took me so long to get to a place where I'm like, wait, I am not satisfied. I am not, but it took me a pretty long time, and I'm still not, completely committing to diving in, to learning more, to opening. There's a resistance. There's it'll kind of happen on its own, maybe, or maybe it's normal at my age, or like I have an infection right now. I'll wait till that's gone. There's always the later. So I don't know if there's anything you can say or speak to that part.
Yes. Okay, you said two things. You said, it took me a long time to realize where I'm at and that I'm not satisfied, or not as satisfied as I would like to be, and there is resistance. So I'm going to speak to the first one. I think as women, we have to remember, and it's International Women's Day, what an amazing day to talk about this. We have to remember that the liberation that we are in is pretty new compared to like history and what we're carrying in our psyche. So, in the last 60 years or 70 years, there's been a lot of amazing transformation for women's rights, and then for women's sexual expression, and then for women to be able to accept their sexual identity or sexual orientation, no matter what it is. And so that is pretty recent. And we still carry our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents' ways of thinking as, generational imprints or trauma. And so we can still have internalized within ourselves, even though we're like, I'm a strong, independent woman, but still deep within in relationship, we may have this marital duty still imprinted in us, or like, sexual, it's not really for me to be super pleased, or his pleasure or her pleasure, my partner's pleasure comes first before mine. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, and to realize that we have a conditioning that might not be aligned with our authentic truth. So that's it took me a long time to realize this. Yeah, it can take us a while to be like, I'm not my parents. I don't have to have my mother's sexuality, my grandmother's sexuality, my great-grandma's sexuality. Those were different times with different people. What I desire is this, and to own it. And it's vulnerable. It's very vulnerable to own it, because sometimes it's like the opening of the can, not of worms, of like beautiful discovery, but it can be frightening to be like, wow, okay, so how do I go about this now? How do I talk about this to my partner? How do I make it happen? So that's for the first part. And we can dive later into the resistance piece. But in one short sentence, resistance is so normal. I still experience it on a regular basis. And it's kind of like resistance to going to the gym or to doing our dance routine or to eating healthier, going to bed early, is that there is a pool of our other habits from 10, 15, 20, 30 years before that is bringing us back, and it takes a moment to create something new.
Yeah, yeah, that's really, yeah, that's true. But I think it keeps, in my experience anyways, it keeps kind of coming back, like knocking on my door, like, yeah, you haven't dealt with this yet, like keep, and I'm just like, yeah, but I think at some point, if I want to be, fully expressed, fully embodied, and fully empowered, and which is what I stand for. I'm like, at some point, I have to look at this aspect because it's such a powerful energy for me, for everyone. So definitely worth investing time and energy into it.
And it's so central to who we are. I was reflecting. I'm refining my course for women. We'll talk about it later. But I was just thinking about it again. It's like we grow up with either not talking about a vulva or sexual parts, or briefly talking about it. But we don't grow up in a family or in a society, most of us, where it's talked about in a loving, honoring, caring, respectful way, where we're like, yeah, this is a central part of not only my body and my anatomy, my being. And I agree, we can be very embodied in different ways, but if we don't welcome this part of us, I think there's something that feels that is missing.
Yeah, definitely, especially sexual energy. I mean, it is the source of life. I mean, the orgasm, if that's not incarnated, I mean, I don't know. My belief is that there's a big piece missing.
Yes.
And because it's such a big piece, I think that's why it's so daunting.
Yes.
It's like, I read a quote today. From Mariana
Williamson?
Yes, from the Miracles. What is it?
What is it?
A something in Miracles.
Marianne Williamson from A Course in Miracles?
Miracles.
Yeah.
And she says something along the lines of, we're not afraid of our darkness, we're actually afraid of our light.
Exactly.
And the way that, I translate that is that it takes so much to tolerate the energy that to contain that energy in our bodies, to practice being able to contain more and more and more. And I feel like sexuality is the core of that, is being able to, and that's scary because I mean it means so many things, to be able to hold that in our bodies. So I'm sure you've witnessed that, in your own experience and in others, like how more vibrant they become as they start to cultivate that relationship with themselves.
Absolutely. And you become more vibrant and energized and alive. And, in my case, it was paired with my Kundalini awakening, which is literally that energy just like rising up my being and expanding my consciousness. And it doesn't have to be that, or it doesn't have to be as intense. But for me, it was a lot to process, very much a lot. Now, not even going there, just to become more vibrant, as you were saying, can be challenging because it's like, then we want to take up more space in the world. Then we want to really go for this passion that we have, that we want to turn into a job. Then we want our voice to be heard, then we don't relate to our family the same way, or to a partner the same way, or to our friends the same way, because we are literally, expanding, and that may lead to transformation of relationships, or letting go of some and creating new ones that are more aligned with us. And that also can be frightening, this idea of like, am I going to be loved if I radiate? Am I going to be loved if I'm fully expressed,
Yes.
And to find communities and people that are supportive of that reflect that back to you. Not only people who are here when you are not feeling good, but people who are here and cheering for you when you are doing amazing.
So yes, all that. Like, if I become another person, the person I want to be, am I still going to be loved? Yeah, that's so important to Yeah, a good point. There's so many questions coming up. I'm like, oh, this, oh, that. That's one thing, because I went on Holy Fuck Yes, the group, and there's so much information there. Like you work with women, with men, with couples, and about sex. As I said earlier, you know, there's like, and all sorts of sex, you know, from anal sex to, you know, more like intimate, romantic. You know, there were so many. And also, what else did I see? Oh, like moon blood, where you spoke of being grateful for our moon blood. So, okay, let's start with that actually, because it is International Women's Day. And that's something I've been struggling with.
Okay.
Is because last month I bled the whole month. It was just a little bit, and then I had my full period, and then bled a little bit, and then it finally stopped. And I've been bleeding at ovulation. And it's been a big deal for me of like I'm a mover, you know, I don't want to be all padded up or having to wear, you know, it's cumbersome for me in terms of being a mover. Also, it has been a challenge in my intimate relationship. Like we're not always wanting to be intimate when that's happening. So when you said that, like, be grateful, you know, and I went, how can I do that? And then I started looking into why we bleed. And I realized I didn't even know on a scientific level, really, really, really why we bled, like all the details of why. Would you like to talk a little bit about like why we bleed and why it's so important, like how we can be grateful for?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, I wish I had learned to love my menstruation, my moon blood, my period, however you want to call it, just as it started. And that was not the story around it. And for many years, I was grateful that I didn't bleed much. I wanted to forget it as fast as possible, not think about it, and pretty much ignore that side of me. And I was not at all in tune with my cycle in terms of moods, in terms of desires, in terms of cravings, in terms of needs, you know, needs to be active, needs to rest. And it was more something what's the word in French, subi, you know, something I was like, that was a burden that was like inflicted upon me. And when, you know, this reconnection to my femininity, to my sexuality happened, that was inevitably part of the transformation, was to feel my menstruation in a completely different way and to welcome the cycles and to connect to the moon and to feel like just like the moon, like I go through phases on a regular cyclical pattern, and that is a beautiful thing. And I can learn to embrace this rather than want to be like go 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 the way the culture is, always being productive and always pushing and not resting, which is not so much of, you know, aspect of the French culture, but it's very much aspect of the American culture where I live. I'm North American. And reconnecting to my blood first for me started with like looking at it. So instead of using tampons or pads, I've been using a Diva cup. So like a silicone cup that you put inside, and then I have a little glass container, and you know, I pour it, I close it, I put it in the fridge. I used to live with a roommate, and that was like I had to hide it behind the jam. She was not a big fan of it. Anyway, my partner is like so accepting, so there is no issue. And then at the end, you know, I go pour it in nature, in my plants or in a river or on the ground in my yard, and I feel that this part of me is honored rather than just like shamed or pushed away or denied. So looking at it, being conscious of it has been really helpful. That's the first part. I have never suffered from intense cramps. I have cramps. It hasn't, you know, I can feel extremely tired, but not as to the point of some other women. But for me, what has helped me is to honor that day. I wish women could take 3 days off every month. And we were in a feminine oriented culture where women are half of the population, so it would be wonderful that the like fundamental biological aspect of our nature was honored and respected. And so what I try to do is I try to make my schedule lighter if I can around those days, and really be just not so much like, the cliche, which is like binge watching Netflix or like eating like ice cream. Like, of course, that's comforting, but I think more in the sense like, can I go in nature and just relax? Can I dance? And in the summer, for example, dancing in my yard, letting my blood flow completely, which, usually it's not like a stream, like a waterfall. Usually it's just like little pockets of blood. So it's not like that has been so freeing. Taking a shower, taking a bath with nothing, no cup, no tampons, no pad, and just like letting my body feel free in this moment rather than constricted. That's the second thing that has been really helpful. And for me, when I honor myself, I can get in an almost weirdly ecstatic, creative, I don't give a fuck type of mood. It's a weird, if I honor it, it's a weird, like, it's a little bit almost like doing plant medicine to a lesser degree, kind of thing. It's like, I very much feel like I'm in an altered kind of state. I'm not in my normal, the rest of the month state. And honoring this, like journaling or, drawing cards or singing and just being in the flow, making it a ritual of reconnection to myself has been so helpful. So, yeah, those two things have helped me a lot. And the last thing was if personally I can have just as much sexual desire on my period than off. Sometimes I'm not hornier around my ovulation. So the fact that I'm with a partner who's honoring me in all my states is so amazing. And you just lay out towels in the bed and you can still kiss and make out. You can take a shower prior if that feels better. And if you empty the cup just before, you realize that there's actually not that much blood. There is, but it's less than I think what we make of it. Yeah. And yeah, I did a whole video on that, but it's a natural lubricant. It helps relieve cramps. To make love on your moon, it creates a deeper connection to your partner. It makes you feel loved and accepted in a deep part of your femininity. And so to not separate that from love making has also been super helpful. So I might not be in the mood, you might not be in the mood, but if you are, just to welcome it as okay.
I didn't know that making love on my moon takes away cramps. That's a good solution because I get cramps and I'm like, oh my God, it's so painful. So yes. Yeah, that would be a good solution.
And that plus breath work or like anything that helps just breath work, focusing on your lower belly. I have a moon meditation that I give to my clients. So the orgasm, contracts the walls of the uterus and the vagina. And so when you have an orgasm on your period, it can help release, because the blood, as you know, is like the layers, the thin layers of the uterus that is being released where the egg would have nested if it had been, fertilized. So we're releasing that. And so helping movement and contraction around the uterus help release more. So it helps move. So I found that it's, plus, you have the pleasure and the oxytocin of the connection and the pleasure that takes your mind away from it also.
When you're describing all of the practices that you have, the rituals around your blood, I was thinking like there are things that I do, like I have the Diva Cup and I have to admit, like going from pads to Diva Cup and with the period underwear, that it did transform where I don't have this repulsion against, definitely from seeing it, like it's not, there's nothing gross about it, So that definitely transformed. But by hearing you and your practice and your rituals, it's giving me permission to be like, okay, well, Mary's safe. Like she does that and she's still safe. Like there's something about, can I be with it and still be safe? Like, for me anyways, I'm just noticing that, like safe in terms of am I going to be judged? Am I, if I don't do as much work, is that okay? Will I be safe? Like whatever comes up for me, will it be really emotional and too much for me? Like, yeah, the word safe came up when I was listening to you. And I feel like when, like, you're giving permission by sharing your story, your rituals, like you're giving me permission to do the same.
I
Yeah.
love this.
Yeah.
I love this. And when you were talking about the safety piece, I really thought about permission. And I think we all need like examples of the fact like it's possible. And, all the women have been like trailblazing the path before me and then before them, and very courageous women that did that at a time where it was even less common or less accepted. So I think that's super important, and we can inspire each other with our own embodiment and freedom for sure. And once we have glimpses of this, to also give ourselves permission. Because, for example, when I'm on my period, I tell everybody, I tell my clients, I tell, not like, I say it the same way I would say, like, hey, I'm tired today. I'd be like, oh, this is what's going on for me. And I normalize it because I don't care. Like, I feel like we need to reclaim this. This is, no one would be on earth without period existing, without menstruation. The human race would not exist. So
you said, I have this quote actually. I love this. I took this quote from one of your videos. You said, without us bleeding, women bleeding, there would be no humanity. We would not exist as a species. And I went, holy jumping jacks, that's so that's so true. Because I don't know if this is, I know a lot of women around me. I'm actually quite fortunate. I have many women around me who welcome their femininity, their moon cycles, like they're very in touch. I still struggle. I have a lot of yang in me. And so, this actually brings me to my next question is, from my experience, I was never someone who really wanted children. So for me, bleeding, like I understood that it had to do with being pregnant and giving birth, that the whole cycle was actually a process, like to ensure a healthy pregnancy, basically. But since I didn't want children, I just felt like, goodness gracious, this thing's such a pain in the butt every month, why do I have this if I don't want children? Now that's changed, but I'm still not someone who's like, oh, I want children so badly, so I welcome all of this femininity in me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you want to keep going? Or
No, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So you said like we could bring it to personal things, right? In our life together. So just in a quick question, you are in a committed relationship right now, right?
Yes.
And now you're not sure you want to have children, but you're less against it. Is that correct?
No, we are talking about having children now.
Okay, so now it's a possibility.
Yes.
Okay. And you say that recently you've been bleeding around ovulation time or at weird time.
Okay. Yeah, since I met him.
All right. Since what?
No.
It's been a year?
It's been a year, but it was last month where I like the moment we said, basically, wow, now that I'm thinking about it, the moment they were like, oh yeah, okay, let's do this. Yes. I
okay. Okay, so here's what I see, but like I was saying, like this is not a session and we're not really exploring your subconscious and your body, but here's what I'm seeing that may be a possibility is that there might be a part of you that's consciously okay with having children, but there might be a part of you that's like, fuck no, this is scary and this is going to keep me away from my purpose and my expression and in my career. And I do not want that, or I do not want that right now, or I don't think I'm ready. And it could be your body manifesting this contradiction by bleeding around ovulation to keep you from unwanted pregnancy or not ready pregnancy or pregnancy at all.
Oh my goodness, that's, yep. I believe that 110%. I'm like, there it is. Because yes, when you say there might be this part of me, no, there is this part of me. I am petrified. I feel like, this idea that I mean, we could go into, you know, psychological, like my relationship with my mother and like what, all this stuff. But yes, there is a part of me that is petrified because I I have this belief that having a baby is going to invade me, invade my body, first of all, through, you know, and I'm a dancer. Like I'm so in my body and I love my body and I love moving. And I'm like, oh goodness gracious, I'm going to have something that's going to stop me from moving the way I normally move. And this is going to, where my focus is going to go, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah.
Yeah, so that makes so much sense that your body would like show you the manifestation of those fears. And I think that you can, you know, ease that by giving yourself time, by having deep, honest conversation with your partners, by having a conversation with your womb, which is something like I help my clients do, and your vagina, and by, you know, down the road, if or when you feel like more interested in having children or sooner, then you can connect to other dancers that are mothers and kind of start to gather information to see who is modeling to me the life that I want without my desires being conflicted. Who can model to me that I can be a very fulfilled mom and a very balanced mom and also a very expressive and successful dancer. And then, so then, because we all have that, and that's what I do with parents, is we all have those conflicting desires that we don't know how to bring together because of everything you said before, relationship to the parents, trauma, whatever. And so how can we bring those together? Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, finding someone that they represent what it is that I would like to have, giving me permission. Yeah, totally. Like that's the thing, right? Having like the examples that say it's possible. Like that is possible. Like
and
you
also,
make
yeah. And also, you know, I feel like in our society, COVID apart, which has been so unique, but we can be isolated in our modern lives. Where in the past, it's true, women were having children in villages and other people were taking care. You know, if we don't have grandparents around, it can feel more of a burden or higher to manage. And so I think creating a microcosm around us that is supportive of our motherhood desires can be really helpful also. And something you said that I think is important is like, you were like, I have so much yang in me, and I don't know if people are going to tolerate that I work less. And I think here, there's also a piece to be transformed or integrated in a new way. Because I think women, we have fought for rights to be free to work, to make money, you know, as much or close to as much as men. We've expanded the potential everywhere in all industries or areas where, like, yeah, if I want to be an engineer, I can be an engineer. If I want to be a dancer, I can be a dancer, right? And we can also we can mistake in our yin side, and I like yin yang more than feminine masculine, because feminine masculine is, you know, there's so much interpretation and projection on those words. But yin yang is much clearer for me. So we're like, I'm going to reclaim my yang, because before I could only stay at home and, you know, be a mother and that's it. And so we're forgetting that balancing our yin, rest, you know, peace, self-pleasure, dreaming, all those aspects of ourselves is just as important. Like we need them to kind of go together. Otherwise, our yang is imbalanced, and then we become exhausted, tired, depressed, burnt out, and it doesn't serve us.
It doesn't feel good. Amazing. Thank you. Yes, I love all these ideas that you give. You know, there's so many. It's like, oh yeah, I could do this, I could do that, I could. Or reminders also. Like I love daydreaming. I love that. I love just sitting somewhere and daydreaming, and I don't do it often enough. But when I do that, I get so much insight. My creativity flows. I love daydreaming. So yeah. I'm trying to see here because I had some questions that I wanted to ask you about. Yes. Okay. So there again on the holy fuck yes. I love this. I'm gonna put it on. I think it's so good. On the holy fuck yes group, which is a genius title for a group. Like I love it because it's everything and it has the impact of an orgasm. Like you're just like, you know, you can't fuck with this. Like it's like, yes, it's good, it's great. And you think of something that I have rarely encountered, which is the energetic orgasm.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, speak to me about that.
Okay.
It's like having an orgasm without touching yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I got that, but I mean, how do you must need so much focus and so
All
much.
right, so I'm gonna share about energy orgasm. But first, this holy fuck yes, you know, it's so funny. When I was going through the coaching program and I was having all my transformation and I went through a lot of transformation in my relationships and I finally separated. Uh, like it came to me so clearly. And first I thought my brand was going to be holy fuck, and then the domain name was taken. And then I was like, no, holy fuck yes is even better. But it actually took like 3 years to mature, even like 4. Um, and then I was like, no, I feel ready. Like this is perfect. It's like holy is the sacred, is the divine aspect of ourself and sexuality. Fuck is fuck, and yes is saying yes to those two parts of us, because for me in humanity we have spirituality somewhere up there and we have sexuality down below, and if we only embrace one or the other, I feel like we're not being complete, we're not becoming whole. And for me it's like bringing those two together and everything that is in between. And this is what sacred sexuality is for me, saying yes to our sexuality all the way up to our spirituality and back, and seeing that those can dance together and inform each other.
And it's in the title.
And it's in the title.
So good.
Yeah, and my website, I'm gonna have a website. I'm redesigning it, and I'm working with my web designer on it. But I'm excited about it. So, energy orgasms. Yes. So first, what it is the idea that energy can move through us, and be felt through our body from bottom to up in a way that feels orgasmic, in a way that feels like waves of orgasms. And that is your sexual energy being awakened and moving through your body. So yes, it's totally possible. I think what keeps people on having them is that if something starts feeling energetically strong and moving, we might not know what it is. It might feel weird. If we have like, sometimes it can happen in like little tremors at the beginning where we feel like little shaking. We might just be like, oh, it's weird, and push it away. So I think the first thing is to know that your body is capable of that. It's not that complicated. It's open to all men and women and all people. And welcome it. Now, if you want to encourage it or, create it, there are different ways that I teach, but a simple way would be to start to feel pleasure instead of. So usually when we think turn on, we think stimulation, physical stimulation on my vulva, for example, if we talk women, right? We think that's going to be my turn on or my sexual pleasure. But we know that we can feel turned on, by seeing someone or just by being in a spatial state and no one is touching us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we feel turned on, to kind of just start to really bring awareness to that sensation, that aliveness in the body, and to start to expand it with the breath. Really, it could be nothing more than just sitting or lying down with like some nice music and just breathing into it and letting your body kind of just move with it. Mm-hmm. And then you could touch yourself in a way that feels good to you and not go to climax, and learn to expand the pleasure. So let's say, you start touching yourself and you go from a 3 to say like a 7 on a scale of 10. 10 will be orgasm. Then you're going to pause at 7 or 8 and just breathe and see, can I bring it down in my breast? Can I bring it down in my throat, in my arms, in my legs, in my feet? Can I bring it down up in my head? And just to play with that. And to play with that, even on climax, when you orgasm, you could be like, when it starts to unravel, to be like so breathing it upward. And it looks like that I froze or something.
You're still there.
I'm still there, or maybe it's my camera. Okay. And then to breathe it up. And for me, breath work also has activating it. Because my view is that energy is sexual energy can be dormant in the body, but energy moves in the body all the time. And we have blocks and kinks in our energy system, right? And so for me, therapy or healing work is removing the blocks so energy can move freely. So when we remove the fear of being judged, or is my orgasm okay, or all the things we talked about before, and we'll welcome all the experience in the body as it is, we're much more likely to free the kinks and let the energy move and feel those energy orgasms. So.
I love this. I love this. There's and do you use this energy and infuse it in your work? Because I've heard that from some people that like the sexual energy is actually, you know, especially for men, if they don't have, if they don't climax, then they can actually really like, and women can have an orgasm and they can, like the energy will still be available to them, but for men it's different. However, that both can take this energy and infuse it in whatever it is that they do, and it will enhance or have more flow. Do you want to speak? I've heard of this. I read a little bit about it. But
yes. It's totally possible. And there's a neo-tantric practice called sex magic, which is exactly that. So the idea is like your sexual energy and your creativity on an energetic level are related, connected, the same thing. And sexual energy can make babies, but you can also channel it to create if you don't want to have babies. So if you move your energy in your body center by center or chakra per chakra, and you are focused on what you desire to create, you can channel it and then feel that it's rippling into your creation, into what you want to manifest, who you want to attract. There's also this thing that once you move from a more habitual or like restricted approach to orgasm, when usually it's like, all right, there's local friction, there's local stimulation, and then boom, the orgasm is like, we all, I think, know that we can have different types of orgasms, even if we feel like even if we only think of clitoral orgasm, we know that sometimes it can be amazing or great, and sometimes it's like, nah, right? So I think it's the same thing. It's that idea of like, can I harness this energy that I'm building with pleasure? Can I use pleasure as a fuel, and can I harness it and expand it in my body rather than letting it just like go up and release right away? Like, and for men, it's this idea like, you can have orgasms without ejaculation, and women can ejaculate also. That would be another thing to talk about. So we can do both. We can all do both. And instead of like releasing it super fast like we would do, how can I breathe it in my body? How can I expand it? Even with ejaculation, and feel like I'm nourishing my whole body with it. I am, connecting to what I want to create with it and changing my mindset. And so yes, it's possible.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. I'd like to explore that for myself. Like I'm like, yep, that's the direction that I'd like to.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and it's available to you. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's available to anyone who's human and able to wield their attention on cultivating that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm extremely creative, and I want to do big things in my life. And then when I heard that, I thought, well, maybe that would be a way of supporting like tapping into something greater than me. I don't know.
Yes, I love that you said that. I love that you said something greater than me, because for me, this is how the awakening started. It's this idea that I can pray through sex. I can worship the divine, whatever that is for you, through sex. My sexual pleasure is something that the universe wants me to experience, and I think a lot of religions have constricted humans and around that because it was a way to control people at a very primal level. If people are free sexually, it's hard to control them, you know. And to free ourselves from this, you know, old school patriarchal kind of medieval views, and to be like, no, it's not because I awaken my energy that I'm going to be uncontrollable. I think a lot of women or men also have this. It's not because I tap into my sexual power and I'm free in the bedroom or free with my partner or partners that all of a sudden it's all that I'm going to be thinking about. Like you can't, you know, and I think to really realize that that's a myth. Like it's like now you know how to cook delicious food and amazing healthy food. That doesn't mean you're gonna binge eat all day, you know? Like I would say to the contrary, because once we stop repressing, everything that is repressed is influencing us behind the veil of the subconscious and is coming out distorted and is having an action on, you know, is influencing our choices of relationship or choices of jobs or choices of friendships or relationships. So the less repressed our sexuality is, the more whole we become. Actually, the more we have control over, you know, the more, yeah, we create a beautiful partnership with that part of us, and we're not afraid of it anymore. And it connects us to something greater.
I like that very much. I'm in search of that right now. I'm learning more about my spirit. Like I love that you were talking about these opposite points, but that are connected, because I am in search of my spirituality and simultaneously in search of what it is that sexual energy is for me, my intimacy, my, you know, that part of my life. And so I'm definitely appreciating that there's this flow, this connection, and that it.
Yes. And you know what is, you know, at the core of spirituality, we think like spirituality, present moment, you know, happiness beyond materialism, oneness, connection to all that is, feeling love unconditionally in our being, you know. So when you are in an orgasmic state, there is no thoughts. There is oneness, there is expansion, there is connection, there is surrender, there is opening. For me, those are also terms we use for spiritual experiences. And every time is going to be different. It doesn't mean that every time I have an orgasm, I'm like connecting to God. But at least I know I felt it in my body that it is possible, God or the goddess or whatever, you know. And yeah, that's why sexuality can be so beautiful. It's like so restorative, so liberating from our mundane activities. It's a moment where you're like connected, you know.
Love that. Last question for you. I want to know what, in the context of inner fire, what was your biggest challenge in allowing the flow of energy, of sexual energy? What was your biggest challenge, your biggest block that you were able to, and that it lit your fire, allowed that circulation?
The biggest block was to not be sexually sovereign. So I talk a lot about sexual sovereignty because for me, and I remember actually it was even the day I realized it, for me, sexual sovereignty is key for that. So the biggest block was to subconsciously think that my sexuality didn't belong to me. Maybe it belonged to my partner or husband. Maybe it belonged to my parents' judgments or my parents. Maybe it belonged to church, even though I've never been raised religious or anything. It's this like idea that my sexuality doesn't belong to me. It's this weird, disconnected part of me, and I should fear it, but I should enjoy it at the same time, but it's not really mine. And so to let go of this crap and to be like, wow, like my sexual sovereignty. I am the queen of this temple. In the sense like this is my temple, this is my body. I am the sovereign. I can make whatever decision is in harmony with my soul, with my heart, moment to moment. And I can change those decisions. It's my body. It's my pleasure. And that for me, that for me was like a pivotal moment in my life. And even recently, I'm in a super fulfilled, most beautiful relationship of my life. He's amazing. And recently, we've been having conversation like I still felt this urge, like, oh, if I'm not delivering in bed, if I'm not in a sexual mood, I would be rejected. I had this deep fear in my, even though it's not at all my reality at the moment at all.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those things we unravel them in layers. And but yeah, reclaiming my body and my sexuality as mine and divine and beautiful and sacred, that was the biggest thing to unleash my sexual energy, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. That really had a huge impact on me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's having a huge impact on our viewers. And if you'd like to comment on anything that we have shared in the past hour, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
I will put in the comments. So let's do briefly. Let's talk about what's coming up for you in terms of programs. Yeah. How
Yes.
people can get involved and get some of your medicine.
Thank you, love. Okay, so if you want to work with me one-on-one, as a couple, as a woman, as a man, you can email me at marie@holyparties.com, and we'll start the conversation, and we'll, get on a call just to chat and understand better your needs and if we're a good fit to work together. And I would love to support you. If everything that I talked about seems inspiring and you want to know more, it would be my absolute joy to work together with you. And I am launching my first group course, online course for women. Sacred Feminine Pleasure is the name. And we start this Sunday. Like Saturday, I'm going to still welcome, people, women signing up, but we're closing Saturday. And it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful immersion. It's an 8-week journey where I'm going to take you, if you're interested, through different phases to, discover energy orgasm and cervical orgasm, and to love your body and to awaken your senses, and energy orgasms, and, embracing your sexual shadow, and all of it. We're going to take, and how to integrate and ground and rest. Also, there will be a whole week on that. So I know, it's an 8-week journey.
I'm in.
So everything we talked about. So I want to offer the container that, and practices that are my favorite practices that work best with my clients to help women, awaken and free themselves. And sisterhood is so important, just for the reasons we talked about earlier, which is to feel like you're not alone and to listen to the experiences of other women, younger, older, different stories. And I love sisterhood. For me, healing the sisterhood wound in women is so important, to see each other as inspiration and support rather than competition. That has been so helpful for me. So there will be a sisterhood group where we can learn from each other.
Hallelujah to that. Yes. I love it. I will also put, for those of you who would like to follow Marie, there is the Facebook group, the Holy Fuck Yes Facebook group. So I will put the link in the comments, as well as her Instagram, which is full of tantalizing pictures and sensuality, and it's wonderful. I absolutely love it. So I will put those in the comments once we complete. Is there anything, Mary, that you'd love to share with the audience before we?
I want to say I think I understand, like, the audience here for is mostly women in this group, and I want to say to you as a woman, love your body, love your sexuality. Awakening our sexuality is not something that we turn on a button and it's done. It's the journey of self-discovery. We have ups, we have downs, but it's like this loving, welcoming approach to everything that we are. Or pleasure, no matter what turns you on, it's okay. Really embrace your body, and you will feel and reap the benefits in like all aspects of your life, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mary, for taking the time to have this conversation with us, especially on International Women's Day. I love that we scheduled it by mistake. We're like, oh, we have to push it on Monday. Okay, let's do Monday. And we're like, wait a minute. That was magical. So thank you. And I'm sure women internationally will benefit from this conversation. And yeah, thank you for doing what you do. Definitely.
I really hope so. Thank you so much, love. I know there was like so many other things we wanted to talk about, but it's so good to reconnect with you. It's so good to see you on your journey too, and expand and to stay connected. Yeah, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Well, I want to wish you a exceptional International Women's Day week. I mean, there's so much going on this week. So yeah, check it out. I posted some things in the Inner Fire Women's group. Yes, for what's going on. And I'll be back in a few weeks with more incredible guests that just light up the world with what they do. And I'm touched every time. I feel honored and grateful for being able to have these conversations. So wishing you a wonderful day, and get in touch with Mary, follow her. I mean, this was, I have to say, like one of my top favorite interviews. Like there's so much goodness in there. I mean, if you just scroll back and listen to it again and write down all the nuggets for yourself, there's plenty to try on. And then if you want a deeper dive, then yeah, definitely reach out, and maybe I will see you in that I think she said an 8-week class. Is that right? Anyways, we'll get all the information because we'll put the link in the comments as soon as it's ready for you. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Mwah.